This is IBM Museum. Just like a previous video, I've gone through on my working PS2 Model 85. That's that K/N model. And this has a 486DX2 66 megahertz on it. So it's the N submodel. But I've gone through just like the previous video where I checked what the contents are of that SCSI drive that I had on the system. I've gone through, and the hard drive that I had in the other K/N that is just not working correctly. I've pulled that hard drive, and I'm going through to look at what the contents of that drive are now. And I've set the SCSI ID to the same. I've used that single device cable. And this drive is the fast wide connection, 68 pin connection, as compared to the other model being what they consider a narrow SCSI drive with the 50 pin connector, and then the adapter from the planar connection, taking it from that fast wide to regular narrow SCSI to a 50 pin connection. And I shouldn't have to run the reference diskette or anything like that. I've gone through and connected up power and pulled the power of the other drive. So let's get that turned on. Hear the drive spinning up. And we'll do the escape for a faster boot. And on that other drive from the previous video, we had just the Windows boot files to put us at a command prompt. And then I had some files that were there that I didn't quite understand what I had, or why I just had that in a boot arrangement for this drive. And we've loaded the mouse driver. We've whatever reason I'm loading DOS key. It's looks like a full DOS directory. What do we have for a version of that? Okay, PC-DOS version 7, revision 0. So this is much more aligned with being an IBM system with PC-DOS. And the QSpock.exe, that has and then I have a text file there. And I'm thinking that there's a comparable text file that was also on the other drive. And I think what I'm doing is I'm running that QSpock, and that might be a good time to do a demonstration of that, just to show what that does. But I think I'm doing the output, I think I'm piping to a text file. And I don't know if the QSpock, I think if it runs, I don't know if it is paginated. In other words, whether it'll go through page and ask you to press a key to look at further details. Okay, it just went through and ran the whole program. So to show the output, what I can do is I can type that capture I did before, and I would have done it on that other system, which is interesting because meaning that that system should have worked at some point, would have worked at some point. And I'm going to pipe it through the more command so we get a screen full at a time. Okay. Okay. So for those not familiar with the IBM SCSI, you can have multiple adapters present on the system. And the primary address is that 3540 hex, and it identifies this program, this QSpock program, and I'll tell you about the author here in a moment. Goes through and the program checks to see what adapters are at what addresses, and it found one IBM SCSI adapter, which is from the planar, and on port 3540 he has the report the status information, and this might even, I need to see if on that other system I can just pull the battery for a time and connect up this drive now that I've got it jumpered correctly, and see if I can get things going on that other system. And so next screen, and he goes through and gives a lot more detail. When I did the SCSI level, I was just expanding what IBM had, and IBM typically had it just check the adapters. Notably, the Corvette adapter is included on the diskette. There's a little utility program that's included on the diskette for the IBM SCSI adapter that's fast wide that IBM called the Corvette. It has the same functional parts on the K/N planar for that adapter, but you could also run it on the Tribbles and the Spocks, but I didn't like where you had systems like the Model 85, the Model 57s and 56s, 76 and 77s with the Bermuda planar, and those systems it wasn't programmed to check those systems for the SCSI microcode level. And so my expansion, I made it so it did so. Well, this QSpock is for query Spock, and the thought that Spock adapter was the IBM SCSI adapter with cache, as it called, a little bit narrow version, not a fast wide like the Corvette was, but the author of this program wrote his, he named it to query the IBM SCSI adapters, and he just shows the Spock adapter as the primary one that he targeted. And so it has the adapter ID, and he's got, so the SCSI control block, get adapter info, adapter ID, and then the POS registers, interrupt level, adapter revision level. So he's doing the same thing that I did with SCSI level, only providing a lot more detail of the SCSI subsystem. And, gets so much more detail here. So let's go on to the next page. Okay, get command complete status. And just all this detail on the SCSI interface, multiple pages of information. Okay. And then, so at the bottom of this, he has it's QSpock, and he's got /DOS beta release 2.0. I need to see if there's an archive version of what the QSpock level is at now. And it's UnalZ. This is and he did a lot of programming for the developed aftermarket drivers, better than the versions that IBM had for the Windows level, for the XGA2 display adapter, and also wrote a driver for the IBM SCSI that was, had better performance than what it did from IBM, the IBM drivers under those operating systems. And if UnalZ out there, drop us a line. We've been trying to communicate with you. We saw his website just go dark probably a couple months now, a few months ago now. And we've tried contacting, and we've not got a reply so far. So we're just kind of wondering and hoping, of course, for the best situation why he's gone incommunicado. But this is the more involved tool than what even my SCSI level did. My SCSI level is just focused on expanding the IBM utility to get that SCSI microcode revision level and nothing further. Not to the detail of what this program does. So I will, I'll give a link to this, to where you can find the most current version of QSpock if you want to run this on your IBM SCSI adapters. And luckily that's cached in this case that from the website that he ran, and we can just get out to the world and maybe eventually he'll see this video, or someone that has a little bit better contact with him at this point, to where we can get back in communication or find out what's going on with that. So, but that was the contents of this hard drive of my K/N Model 85 that the SCSI system is not functioning at some level, and I'll still have to diagnose and pull the battery and go to just a more rudimentary level. And even though it had the Pentium Overdrive CPU in there, we did put another CPU just to try and get things resolved on it. And I think it probably I'll just go with the regular 4-6DX for going further, trying to get the system responsive, to get rid of that element that the system may have been a little bit unstable under the Pentium Overdrive CPU. And I didn't have any cache module in there, but the drive works, and I've got it jumpered correctly now to do that. So that's moving forward at some level. But if you enjoy this content, click on that like button, and by all means subscribe to my channel if you have not already. But that's all I have for now. This is IBM Museum. Thank you.